What's going on, everybody? What's going on? What's going on? Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. The last day of March. The last day of March. The first quarter has gone by so fast, y'all. Tomorrow is April 1st, April Fool's Day. Y'all, I'm just reminiscing. So you know that if you can hear me and or see me, you know what tonight is. It is time for the mic drop. And I want to go ahead and shout out Greensboro, North Carolina, and Clarkton, North Carolina. What's going on? How you feeling? What's good? As you are joining in, make sure you put your city and state into the chat. Make sure that if you are chiming in from a completely different country, that you put that in the chat as well. Love to see where everyone is chiming in from. For those of you who do not know who I am, maybe it's your first time watching. I don't know. But let me introduce who I am and what I do. So my name is Nishika Melton, and I am a simplified productivity strategist. And what that means is there is no reason for you to feel overwhelmed, overworked, burnt out, lost, going in circles, none of those things. Because I am the person that takes you from vision to implementation. I get you to the finish line without all of that unnecessary stress that likes to creep up on us, honey. And sometimes it likes to make its whole entire home in our presence. But I help you get that finish line, cross the finish line without all that unnecessary stuff, so that you can enjoy the success that you are building, not just for you, but we're talking about legacy, honey. We are talking about legacy. So, y'all, part of being an entrepreneur, part of being a high achiever, and y'all see me looking down, that's because I am making sure. If y'all can see and hear me, then put a 1 in the chat. If you can see and hear me, put a 1 in the chat so that I know. Because we had an incident one time, honey, and we were going at it. I mean, going in on the interview, and nobody couldn't see or hear nothing. Okay, so we got some 1s in the chat. Great. Hallelujah. Perfect. So part of being a high achiever is you have to know how to pivot. Okay, pivot. You have to know how to pivot, because what life is gonna do, life be lifing. You understand what I'm saying? Life be lifing. So what we want to do at this point in time is we want to tell Cindy that we hope she gets her voice back. Y'all, Cindy Whitteman was our guest for tonight, and she lost her whole entire voice. Bless her heart. I hate it for her. I really do. I really do, because my business, my job revolves around me being able to run my mouth. So y'all send your prayers up to her. Cindy, if you are watching, we pray that you get better. And we look forward to you opening up in the new season, because y'all, this is the season finale of season 1. We've been at this since October. So I'm not gonna hold up any longer. Let's dive in. And if you have not told your people to get on, go ahead and let them know. The mic drop is live. Get on, get in, whatever you have to tell them. Get on, get in, send the link, tell them it is time, because we're going to dive into some stuff today. Get on and get in. Yes, get on and get in. So I've got some questions for y'all. And it's questions that you need to really, really think about and answer for yourself. And they're going to sound like simple questions, easy questions, until you have to answer them. So here's the first question. What does success look like? What does failure look like? Social media can answer it for you real quick, fast, in a hurry, because social media tells you all day what success looks like, what failure looks like. What does wealth look like? What poverty? When you put those images, when you create those images in your mind, and you think about a wealthy person, when you think about a poverty-stricken person, or a person who's struggling, it doesn't even have to be what some would say poverty, because here's the thing, y'all. There are people who are living in big houses, driving fancy cars, and they are one check away from being homeless. So what does wealth look like? What does poverty look like? How do you define it? And how do you know if you got it? How do you know if you are successful? How do you know? Are you waiting for somebody to affirm it? Huh? Are you waiting for somebody to pat you on the back and say, "Ooh, sir, sis, you've done it. You are there. You have arrived." How will you, or have you identified that you are successful? What do you tell yourself when you don't hit all marks? Are you waiting for somebody to invite you to the table? What does the table even look like? Okay, because we hear that phrase all the time. What does the table look like? Who's sitting there? Who are you wanting in your presence? Whose table are you trying to sit at? I wish they had like the Jeopardy sound in the media. They don't, but I wish they did. Whose table are you trying to sit at that will say to you either you on the right road or you made it? Interesting questions. Questions that we need to ask ourselves. Here's another one. And I think it's one that we've all been guilty of. Who do you measure yourself against? That when you look at them and you look at you and you say, if I had that, or if I could be there, if I was on, like for an author, okay? For an author, it used to be, I don't know if it still is. If it is, y'all let me know in the chat. But it used to be, if you were an author, you wanted to be on Oprah Winfrey's book club. You wanted her to pick your book. And she be picking, she picked them thick books. I will, child. That's how authors would say that they had arrived, or they were a New York Times bestseller. That was like the Oscar for authors. If you became a New York Times best-selling author, then you were doing. And at one time, it was if you were an Amazon best-selling author. And that was the case until people started cracking the code. What you mean cracking the code? Listen, you can be a best-selling author on Tuesday and not be on Wednesday when it comes to Amazon. You can hold the title, have that title for one day, and you got it. You were an Amazon best-selling author, but it doesn't mean that you keep it, because there are always people pushing to get that title. So it used to be something that authors would chase after, go hard after, until we started cracking the code. And it's still a little nice accolade to have, but you don't get to have it forever, as far as saying I'm still, unless you are constantly pushing. It's a constant grind that not everybody wants to participate in. So as you're thinking about you, and I hope you wrote those questions down, and I hope you're pondering, I'm going to throw out some names, and I'm going to throw out some situations, and I'm going to throw out some backstories, because there's some folks that we look at. We see them on the news. We see them on CNN, we see them in Forbes. Okay. They're all over the place. Some of them, a couple of them, you may not have heard of the people, but you've heard of what they've done, or you've taken in their product or service. Okay. And folks compare this person's now to their now, but they don't understand the road that the individual had to go on. And I'm gonna tell you something straight up on the what's up. Listen, what some of these people went through, I don't want it. What they went through to get to where they are, some of them, I don't want that to be my story. Let it pass me by. Okay. I want to go another route. I want my GPS to detour and reroute me. Myron Golden, y'all have heard me talk about, see that part. Listen, let me put that on the screen, because baby, there has got to be more than one way to skin a cat, and I'm looking for it. Y'all have heard me talk about Myron Golden. Okay. He lost everything. He started out in financial services, which means he was selling life insurance and health insurance, and he was cold calling. And a lot of people don't want to do that. A lot of people do not want to do that. They don't want to pick up the phone and call strangers. They don't want to knock on strange people's doors. They don't want to do that kind of work. Okay. And it's work. And it took him a long time before he made his first sale. And then once he built his business, and he had a gifting for figuring out, problems in people's businesses, and being willing to, tell them what they needed to tweak. Well, he lost everything, and it wasn't just him. He was also married, lost everything. And I think I talked about in the last podcast that he had a friend that gave him like $4,000 a month, but he lost everything. And he had to swallow his pride, which means he had to let somebody know that he didn't have none. He had to let somebody know that he made a bad decision that cost him and his family everything. Do you know how many people would not do that? Their pride would prevent them from getting help. You can't. Success and pride have a hard time being in the same room together. They have a very hard time. People who have success stories also have humbling stories. Okay? So he had to tell somebody that he made a decision as the provider, protector, the head of the house that cost his family everything. And then accept the help, go back through the process, and rebuild. Now he's got money that he will never spend, his children will never spend. He would say that he has reached a level of success. He did an interview where somebody asked him, how much money do you want to make? And he said, as much as I can. And they called him greedy. He doesn't feel like he's hit the mark. He's reached a level of success because he has defined what success looks like for him. David Ramsey. We know most people have heard of David Ramsey. He is about all the cash. No credit. If you can avoid it, straight up cash system. Because he had to file bankruptcy. He was in real estate. Okay, he was in real estate. And the bank that had all his loans got sold. Buying, selling of businesses, it happens. Mergers happen all the time. That's how Bank of America went from North Carolina National Bank to what it is now. All these mergers. Well, the new owners, I just got a notification. My battery said, feed me. The new owners decided that they were going to call in the loans. And he had over $1 million worth of outstanding loans. And they told him he had 90 days. Who? 90 days to pay back those loans. So he had to file bankruptcy. And he's quoted as talking about a debt collector called his house and his wife answered the phone. And the debt collector, people have audacity. Y'all know people have audacity. The debt collector said, why would you be married to a man who can't afford to pay his bills? What? That's what the debt collector said to his wife. And he never forgot that. He had to rebuild. And he rebuilt in a way that has sustained him and hundreds of thousands of others through his cash-based system. Warren Buffett, everybody know whether you in this country or another, you know about Warren Buffett. Okay. I read an article. Now, he's never lost everything. Okay. That's not been his testimony. But I read an article that said during the housing crisis, 2007, 2008, that he lost a total when you look at all of his investments, because he's a strong investor, over $20 billion. Now, before you can lose $20 billion, you got to have you got to have $20 billion. And let me repeat this. He still didn't lose everything. Can we just marinate in that? With all of his investments and losing 20 some billion dollars, he still didn't lose everything. And he is one of the wealthiest people in the world. Same disciplines and principles. Now, he says he's been interviewed countless times, and he says, I made mistakes. I did. I've made mistakes that I regret to this day when I think about it. But because he was able to define success, because he and Dave Ramsey and Myron Golden defined success, implemented the disciplines, those who lost everything were able to rebuild. Well, I'm not just going to leave it at the dudes, honey. This is Women's History Month, the last day. So, I got to bring the sisters in on the conversation. Okay. Oprah, country girl out of Mississippi, left Mississippi, went to Tennessee, left Tennessee, went to Chicago, and I want to say also maybe Boston or Baltimore, one of the two. But anyway, she was in journalism and media. And she created a show. She was on radio, then she got the talk show. And the Oprah, I knew people. And I did too. I knew people that scheduled their day. If they could not be home to watch the Oprah Winfrey show, they recorded it. And this was back with VCRs, honey. They recorded the Oprah Winfrey show. They did not miss it. And now she is a media mogul with her own network, calling the shots. She started with nothing and faced struggle after struggle after struggle after struggle after struggle. Now, this thing right here, y'all probably won't know her name, but when I list her products, you're gonna know. Linda Resnick. Now, Linda started her marketing business at 19. Okay. Then she married a gentleman, and he had his own insurance business at a very young age. They got together, and what they started doing was buying different businesses. Do you remember, I don't even know if it's still in existence, but the Teleflora company, the one of the first companies that allowed you to order flowers and send them anywhere in the country? Well, they bought that company. And then they started getting into agriculture. Have you ever heard of the wonderful brand of pistachios and almonds, cashews, all the nuts. That's her and her husband. Fiji water, that's her and her husband. The POM, pomegranate drinks, the POM brand, that's her and her husband. They started out in completely, marketing and insurance, then got into agriculture. And let me tell you something, because their business is in California, which is known to have drought periods and limited water usage. California will tell you how much water you can use, whether or not you're allowed to use your sprinklers and all that because of the droughts. They have been in court more times than a few because of the amount of water that is needed to produce their products. And they have no intentions of stopping because they know what is required to produce what they are producing, which is agricultural products. I'm not calling it right or wrong. I'm just calling out the focus and the determination, because they're willing to pay the court costs. As somebody said, you got to pay the cost to be the boss for a brand that is nationally and possibly even internationally known. And then we have Abigail Johnson. Now I know y'all are saying, who in the world? I don't know this woman. I didn't either. But she is the CEO of Fidelity Investments, one of the wealthiest women in the world. Her grandfather started the business, passed it down to her father, and she became CEO in 2014. Let me tell you something interesting about Miss Abigail. Because one would think that it was all just given to her. Oh, she inherited that. Well, she did have to work for it. She went to school to be an art major. Then she got her MBA from Harvard. I want that to rest in your sha-na-na for just a little bit. Art major. Graduated, got her degree. And I want to say it might have been art history. Then she went and got her MBA from one of the most prestigious universities out there. Did her name get her in? Probably. Just like the other university. Probably. Then she became an intern. So they didn't put her in an office. She became an intern and she worked her way up. And she's been the CEO since 2014. What do these people have in common? Well, they have the same thing in common with you. Okay. We look at these people, we read about these people, we talk about these people, and we do it in awe, like in shock, almost in reverence, as if their story can't be ours. You know, minus losing everything part. We're eliminating that. We've already said that's not a part of the recipe. We're doing something else. But we look at these individuals as if we can't have that result. And it's not an end result because they're all still alive. They're all still building, and so are you. But it comes down to those questions that I asked you in the beginning. What does success look like for you? And are you doing 20 different things because you really haven't figured out what you should be focused on? Are you locked in fear because you really don't believe in yourself and the God-given skill set? Because God has given all of us gifts and purpose. So are you sitting on your gift out of fear because you really don't believe that you can, and you're waiting for somebody to affirm you? What if nobody does? What if nobody gives you a pat on the back? Think about David Ramsey and I can't say it was a gentleman. It was all I know is it was a debt collector who had the audacity to tell his wife or say to his wife, how can you be married to a man who can't pay his bills? We, for a while, have been living in a cancel culture, and it's just getting worse. If you do something that people don't like, honey, they are ready to eliminate you. Can you withstand it? Are you willing to stand? Are you willing to figure out or work with a productivity strategist? Hello. Wait, let me get my sounds. Hold on. What do I want to do? Do I want to do a slide? Oh, that's the one I want. Or work with a productivity strategist that helps you figure out what the disciplines are and then stick with it. Because these people that I mentioned, even the two that lost everything, they had the disciplines in place, but they had to create a different strategy. Because what they were doing before, like I mentioned, Myron Golden was selling insurance, honey. Life and health insurance. That's what he was doing. He does not do that now. Okay. He does not do that now. I think he said he charges, I want to say like $250,000, 250,000. Some places have to pay for him to come and speak. Some of his conferences, they are kind of affordable depending on what you define as affordable. But to work with him in a group setting could be upwards of 6 figures because he gets results. He gets results, and people are willing to pay because not only do they believe that they can have a better future, but they believe that he can get it for them if they follow the plan. What does wealth look like for you? And are you willing to be disciplined enough to see it through? Whose table are you trying to sit at? And where do you want your seat? Do you want your seat at the head because you're ready to take on the responsibility and you're ready to take on the weight? Because that's who sits at the head of the table. Are you ready to do some financing of some things and invest in yourself at a higher level? Where are you trying to sit at the table? Because y'all know at least I'm going to say for most people's family reunions, you have where the adults sit and then you have the kiddie table. Which table are you trying to sit at? Are you trying to sit at the kiddie table? Or are you trying to sit where the decisions are being made? You get to decide that. But before you can make that decision and make it with any level of intelligence, you first have to define, what does success look like? What does it look like for me? I can't, and you shouldn't, compare yourself to Myron Golden or David Ramsey or Oprah Winfrey or Linda Resnick or Abigail Johnson or Warren Buffett. We can take some pieces from their life, but I'm not going to compare myself. That is setting myself up for failure. Don't compare yourself to anybody. Don't compare yourself to anybody. And one of the things that I often have to correct people in saying, well, they'll say, I wish I could be like them. I wish I could have that. Ooh, let me pause you, because you don't know the price they paid to be that person. You don't know the price they paid to get that. But there is a lane for you to thrive in. Now I want you to listen to this, that what Warren Buffett says. When he was talking about companies and how he decided whether or not to invest, okay? He says that a company can only earn high profits as long as they can deliver on their promises better than anyone else. Whether you are, let me say that again. Let me say that again. A company can only earn high profits. High profits. You can still earn money not being the best out there. Okay. There are some restaurants that I have experienced, and I'm like, how do they have a customer? There are some companies that I have ordered from and have had horrible experiences, but I keep seeing their commercials and their ads all over social media. There, if we look at our internet and cable providers, we can say very rarely do they offer the best, but most people are stuck. Okay, because this is what's offered in their area. But to make high profits, you have to deliver on your promise better than anyone else. So whether you are W2, whether you are entrepreneur, whether you have a hustle, what problem are you solving? Even if you're moving up the corporate ladder, your boss has to see you as solving a problem for them. What problem are you solving, and how can you deliver it in a way that is better than your competitor? The other question is, who is your competitor? Whenever you put a business plan together, if your business plan is correct, one of the things you have to look at and provide numbers for is what are the people who are in the same arena or close to what you're doing? What do their numbers look like? What does their traffic look like? What do their sales look like? And how are you going to do it better so that you can sustain? Because a bank will take your business plan and look at your numbers, and simply based on your business plan determine whether you are, and I hate to say it this way, but this is how they look at it, whether you are worth the investment. So you have to determine whether or not you are worth the investment. How can you deliver in a way that makes you stand out? It could be economically, it could be in the presentation, Sometimes you stand out because it's a hook. Y'all know if I sang this right here, if I went ba da bum bum bum, y'all know who that is. That's McDonald's. Even though I don't eat McDonald's, their commercials are forever in my head. They stood out. They delivered a marketing technique that was better than their competitors. So when people try to figure out what's a quick thing to go grab, they remember ba da ba ba ba, and they before they know it, they're in the drive-through. How can you deliver on your promises better than those who are doing something similar to what you are offering? And here's the other catch, because there's going to be some people who won't even make it through this podcast because they think they've got that figured out. The moment you stop learning, the moment you stop growing, the moment you think you got it all together, that should be part of your failure definition. Because remember, I told you with the Amazon bestseller, the next day, y'all literally not even the next day, it could happen before then. Like you can have the bestseller status 9 o'clock that morning. By 2 o'clock that afternoon, somebody else has it. Yeah, wow. I heard y'all, even though I'm not with y'all, I heard y'all say, wow. I heard you. You've got to be willing to continue to grow and learn and push in a way that stretches you. You have to be willing to admit your failures without dwelling on them. That was one of the things that Warren Buffett said that he did. He would evaluate his investments. He called it error of omission, meaning there were things that he wished he had invested in and he regrets not investing in it because now he sees, what it does or what the companies do. So that was the era of omission. Then he talked about the era of commission, what he paid into. And he's like, I lost so much money. It was some of the worst investments I ever made in my life. You have to be willing to be honest with yourself. Why is this timely? Because we're at the end of the first quarter. Tomorrow starts the second quarter, and you have 90 more days to get it together. That's the best way. I think the nicest way that I can say that. But you first have to start with asking yourself the right questions and honestly reevaluating what you did in the first quarter. There has to be an evaluation. Has to be every 90 days evaluating. We have been gathering together on this podcast every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time since October. And today is the end of season 1. So now it comes, and I can assure you that I've evaluated, and I know what my 3 big goals are for this second quarter that I'm going to be working on to make it. I'm trying to get right words, but what I'm thinking is pop, lock, and drop. Okay, that's what was in my head, so that's what I'm gonna say. I challenge you to do the same. If it's in your job, if you're trying to climb that career ladder, okay, You need to be looking at that position that you're trying to get, the position that you're in. What's the gap and how you fill it? What sacrifices do you have to make in your personal space in order to fill that gap? Because that's the difference between someone who is considered successful and someone who is considered failing. I'm not going to call anyone a failure because you can always reroute, but they may not be doing as well. You got to fill the gap where you are versus where you want to be. How do you fill the gap and be consistent in the discipline? When I told you the story about Oprah Winfrey and how she went from Mississippi to Tennessee, she went to Tennessee to live with her father. And she said her father was very, very strict. But that's how she started getting the discipline that she needed to stay focused and build what she has. So then the other piece of this puzzle is you got to be willing to look at your situation through the right lens, which also means you have to clear out the clutter. And sometimes clutter is people who don't know how to speak life. And we have many believers who watch this podcast, and we know that life and death is in the tongue. But sometimes we surround ourselves with people who don't know how to consistently speak life. And they use words, and it's words that we use every day. You know, how many times have we said, "Oh my gosh, you're so stupid." And we'll be laughing, right? But stupid is not a positive word. Culture tries to make it positive, but stupid is not a positive word in your mind. When you talk about shifting the atmosphere, we have to change how we talk. Brian Johnson, one of my guests, if y'all remember, Brian said he working on his second million. Just throwing it out there. He said he's working on his second million. Yes. So he said he learned how to speak in a way that changed his end result. It changed his right now. On this podcast, and if whenever you have the time, go back and watch. Now, I know y'all don't know. I know who the 6 and 7 figure earners are. I know who just started out. I know who's on the struggle bus and trying to move forward. Okay. I know because I spent time vetting. But if you looked at those interviews, would you know which ones fell into those categories? Probably not. That's why I asked you, how do you know what success looks like? How do you know what wealth looks like? How do you know what poverty looks like? The only people we can identify it in is ourselves. That's why you can't compare yourself to anybody. Do y'all know how many folks on Instagram are posing with all these things? Okay. These jewelry and cars and houses, and they don't even belong to them. They're going into stores, taking pictures with things just to post, but they haven't bought a thing. I want that to get into your Shanana. Answer those questions. Answer those questions. Every guest that I have had on this podcast, they are fulfilling their success story. I would encourage you to do the same. Create the plan and execute it, and don't accept excuses from yourself. And if you find that it's a struggle, then you need to come holler at your girl. Okay? You need to come holla, HOLLA, at your girl. And I'm going to put this up on the screen. Let's see if it will come up. Oh, it's not. Hold on. Let's remove that. I'm still here, y'all. Sometimes the streaming service doesn't want to do right for the kid. Hold on. There we go. I've developed, if you go to this website, there is an ebook there. Is it free? No. It's not. It's not. I went through my season of free 99. I went through my season, and there will be times that I do offer things for free. This is not one of them, but it is economical. If you go to this website, mindingmybusiness.vip/10 hours, there is an ebook there that tells you how to regain 10 hours in your week. For those of you who say, I don't have enough time, you always have enough time to be the best version of yourself. You always have enough time to create the life that you know you deserve. You always have enough time to regain your peace. You always have enough time to reset, restore, and rejuvenate. So go to that website, mindingmybusiness.vip/10 hours. And hours is abbreviated HRS. And there are tools and strategies that you can implement right now. Right now. And I want to say, congratulations. I'm going to shout you out, Tanya. Congratulations for becoming an affiliate with Amazon. You are doing the content creator thing. Congratulations, congratulations, congratulations. And Tanya was one of the guests on the podcast. And let me tell you something. She has been rocking with the podcast almost since day one. So I want to shout her out on that and say congratulations. Ladies and gentlemen, the page is about to turn. The second quarter is about to start. Are you going to be in the same place at the end of June as you are at the end of March? You're welcome, Tanya. You're welcome, honey. Yes. Are you going to be in the same place? Let's hope not. Let's hope not. Let's hope. Not hope. We're not hoping. We're going to do the work. If you remember, Bruce Hill was the first guest that I had on the podcast. And he talked about how people don't read, which means there's a lack of growth and lack of education. We tend to have social media as the way of educating ourselves. How many books have you read since October. Whether it was an ebook, whether it was a novel. Right now, y'all remember we had, I say we, but I had Deshaun Rose, and he had the Power Partnership book. I finally got my book and started reading it. I've had several authors on this podcast. You could literally take your pick depending on how you want to grow, what lane you needed, because you have your personal and you have your professional / business. My goal, and gosh, the hour always goes by so fast. My goal is to make sure for those of you who are willing to partner that you are not in the same place this time come the end of June. I will put, let me get the, I'm going to put the school community link in the chat. And I will also put it in the comments. If you are looking for a way and a place to grow that is not as time consuming, but you still get the same end result. I go at a slower pace in the school community because I recognize that those who are in that community have jobs and they're trying to transition into a business, or they have a job and they're trying to grow in that job, or they have a business that's taking up a lot of their time and they need to pivot because the way that they built that business like to have stressed them out and it cost them more than they were willing to pay. So the school community, and the link is in the chat. The school community is a way for you to get the same resources and tools, but not so intense as a one-on-one or the group class. It's not as much weight and as much pressure. So, y'all, we have been rocking it since October. Thank you for being a part of my first season of the Mic Drop. We are going to, now, even though I'm not going to be on every Tuesday, you want to make sure that you have subscribed and turned your notifications on, because there could be times when I come across somebody that I don't even want to wait until the next season. And I want to get that information out to you. Make sure you have your notifications turned on so that when I go live, you get notified. And encourage your people to subscribe and turn on their notifications as well as, and I always forget to say this, like the videos. If you have not liked the videos, the interviews, go back once we're done with this one and hit like on all of them. Okay. Are there any questions? Y'all have been kind of quiet in the chat. Success is what you define it to be. Everybody is not looking to make $1 million, and that's fine. Everybody's not looking to be a millionaire, a billionaire, and that's fine. It is perfectly fine. Define it. Look at where you are versus where you say you want to be. Work on developing the systems, the discipline that will fill the gap. And if you are looking for extra time then you need to go to mindingmybusiness.vip/10 hours. mindingmybusiness.vip/10 hours. Y'all have a fantabulous, fantabulicious rest of your week. We're going to remove this. And I'm going to see y'all next time. Take care.